Three, two, one, go. Yeah, start, Joseph.
Greetings, greetings. Today we have a fucking wonderful guest, Hezekiah Chapman. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be changing the channel from Legion of Lilith to Legion of Marjorai. No, just kidding. This is the third brother from the Marjorai on here. So, welcome, Hezekiah, man. It's a pleasure and honor to have you on here with us.
Awesome. I'm happy to be here, dude. This is crazy.
All right, so we just got to get started with this question. How did you get started on the path of self-actualization and apotheosis?
So really, probably about 3 years ago now. I've really only been doing this probably for about 3 years fully. Uh, this really all started with me kind of connecting with Santa Muerte. Like that was it was a very strong pull to her because my girl is a very strong devotee to her. So there was a lot of like altar pieces, a lot of different kinds of statues, a lot of her prayers, a lot of things that were heavily connected to her that were within my room. So with that happening, like I literally just started to kind of, I wanted to show her that, I wanted to show her respect. If she was going to be in my space, I wanted to show her that, I do respect her and that she was, and that I was, I wasn't upset or anything about her being there. I really wanted to be respectful of her. So every day I started to kind of just go up over there and bow and, say hi and I started like, doing little prayers to her. Like, and then it got to the point where she started talking to me. I started hearing this woman like speak Spanish to me. So then, like, there were days where I would just be sitting there and I would go, and it became an everyday thing where I would talk, where I would like do my prayers to her. But it became so like heavily dominant, her like speaking to me, that I started to like actually have dreams of her. She's actually the first one that started teaching me essentially about blood magic. I was not someone who was really open to blood magic or, working with infernals, any of that. And my girlfriend was the main one that really got me into all of this stuff, because it was just so like it was stuff that was really like in her family. For me, I had been doing psychic readings, things of that sort, and really had discovered my abilities. Um, I had already done a lot of that, but I just was not as open to working with infernal energies. So, as a result, of me doing my prayers to her daily, I started having dreams of her, and the connection was so strong. The things that she had taught me in my dreams, like when I would wake up in my waking life, she taught me certain rituals. She taught me all sorts of different things that I started to kind of like implement into my own life. Shortly after that, I started getting very curious for some reason about the Goetia. And that's when I started to look into the Goetia. I wanted to learn about, who the Goetic kings were first. So the first one that I actually reached out to, that I felt the strongest pull to, was Paimon. So I reached out to him, and he's another one that immediately came into my dreams. He started to help me with achieving lucidity, teaching me about nightmares, inducing them, and keeping other practitioners or other people away from kind of attacking you within your dreams. So I started heavily connecting with him, and yeah, from there I really, really got into the occult, with him as my patron at first. Then I ended up communicating and connecting with Bune. They were helping me sharpen and hone in my abilities, and then I fully decided that I was just going to start working from home, and that's what I did. I started doing ritual fire, things of that sort, and it worked out pretty well. I decided that I wanted to, meet all of the spirits from the Goetia. So I just started to meet all of them and document them, and I started making the Goetic Whisper series for that reason.
Fantastic. Were you working out of the book Demons and Magic by Gordon Winterfeld?
Um, no, but I had actually heard of that though. I had heard of it. I was actually working with a lot of a lot of VK Johannem stuff. I was working with a lot of Damon Brand.
Mhm.
I would work with a lot of his stuff, But it got to the point where I actually just started to create my own rituals. And that's when it really became a little more potent for me, because I, for one, didn't like to utilize the names. I didn't really like to use the names of God, things of that sort. I wanted to keep it as pure as I possibly could. So I started to just remove all of that and create my own. And it gave me an even stronger connection to the Goetia.
Fantastic. There's another coincidence. The last interview we did was another brother from the Cabal, and he has a strong link with Santa Muerte as well. And all of us, Demetrius as well, really started out King Paimon and
Hmm.
Luke. So all of us being brought together and documenting it on this channel is being well received by the spirits. I mean, there's a lot of coincidences here. So, what religious paradigm did you leave before stepping onto your current path?
I left Christianity. I was heavily and strongly forced to be raised in Christianity, and I never was someone who was fully really into it because I would ask too many questions. I think that's what would piss everybody off. Is that I would ask so many questions of things that kind of didn't make sense to me. Um, I've always kind of been aware of my abilities, and because I asked so many questions, what really led me away from it was the fact that one day I asked a question and I got an answer to a question that I was asking. I began to have these very vivid dreams of communicating with these beings that were very extraterrestrial, honestly. I still don't know exactly who they are, but they started to show me a lot of the different religions that were out there. And it made me just kind of it made me question everything more. It made me far less confident in, the Christian faith that my mom and my family, especially my grandma, were trying to raise me in. And, from there, that's when I was pretty curious. I got into kind of studying my abilities a lot more after that.
Well, let me tell you something. You having a Christian background, and I do myself, and I I came out of Islam as well. Having that background actually helps you out. Imagine if you had, like, say, an atheist background and you had zero belief in the spirits, zero belief in the angels, zero belief in the gods, you would have had a harder time stepping onto this path. Believe
Very
me.
true.
So, do you feel that your prior paradigm gave you a decent foundation for your current studies?
Oh yes. Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for every second. I'm grateful for everything. Even though there was a lot of trauma when it came down to religion, I'm still
Mhm.
grateful for it because it definitely made me who I am.
Absolutely. Um,
So technically, I watched your material kind of a lot. And what I like about you is that you are pretty grounded and pretty real. There is no extraordinary claims. There is no dick waving. There is no
Yeah.
dick measuring. You are a pretty guy who kind of just comes and talks about different techniques and experiences.
Yeah.
So, can you share more about your work with Anubis and Paimon? Because those are two spirits you work with a lot.
Oh yes. So with Anubis, he was he approached me kind of when I realized that he approached me when I was a very young child. Um, I used to have a lot of dreams of being chased and being attacked by a plethora of different beings. I realized that I was a strong clairvoyant when I was really young, probably about the age of 3. I didn't realize that Anubis was the one that was mainly around me when I was a kid until I got older, and he actually did fully approach me and manifest to me. Um, he taught me a lot about. He basically taught me a lot about my practice of um, having self confidence when it comes to my abilities. That's what led me into really starting to do readings. There was a lot of different types of attacks. A lot of different shit happened to me as a result of coming more in contact with him. It just seemed like it pissed off every other energy that was around me that kind of didn't want me to succeed, if that makes sense. The first time I actually had like a full blown experience with Anubis, he was like, he took me into like a temple, and he activated my Merkaba. I had never even heard of what I had never even heard of a Merkaba. I'd never even actually had any, experience with hearing about that word or experiencing that energy. And I'm in this chamber. He tells me to, identify this. He tells me to identify this crystal in this room. He's like that. He's very much so, just very stirred and straight to the point. And I did like that about him. He doesn't like to really repeat himself, so I kind of just took a guess at what the crystal was, and it was amethyst. It was correct. He takes me into this chamber, and I think it was within like a pyramid. Um, it was some type of chamber within a pyramid. But the crazy thing was, it was one of the Aztec pyramids. It was not a regular
Yeah,
pyramid.
yeah.
It was an Aztec pyramid. And when we had got to the top, we went through the door. He told me to identify that stone, and he told me to step into like the middle of the room. Got into the middle of the room, and that's when he started to started to tell me that he was going to kind of he was going to open up a piece of my energy body and give me a gift. I didn't understand what that meant. And then he told me like then he told me, you're gonna leave, but I can't go with you. And I was like, what?
I believe
So
he took you into what's called a ziggurat, a
Hmm.
step
yeah,
pyramid, and he was telling you that he's basically going to give you a chariot, the Merkaba, the chariot, the transportation.
yeah.
Please, this is very interesting.
So then after that, I'm just standing there, and he starts to kind of he takes his hands, and he kind of like pushes them up to my head. When he does that, he barely like taps it. But once he taps my head, my body just feels like it's gonna explode. And then I just see this energy come out of my chest, and it starts spinning. It's like a rainbow color, but it's spinning counterclockwise. And he's like, this is going to be the vehicle that you're going to use. You can use this whenever you want to go travel. But he's like, there's some beings I want to introduce you to. And so he told me to step into it. I stepped into it, and he's like, you can sit down, you'll be comfortable. So I sat down in it, and it's spinning counterclockwise. And he tells me, you don't have to envision anything. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. He's like, this is specifically going to be designated to go to your your home or to where you originate. And it was interesting. So um after that, I started kind of like traveling through, okay, the scenes on Star Wars when when they travel through hyperspace and it's
Right.
blue.
By any chance, were you from the Sirius star system?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly where I went. And I actually went to Series B. And when I went there, I met some, like, I don't know, it's what the Dogons would describe, the like the canine people. They're
Mhm.
like big blue walking canines or foxes, dogs. I don't know, but they were really tall, and they were very sentient. They were very strong, but they made me really emotional. Like when I initially made contact with them, I started to cry because I'd never experienced any energy that was as unconditional as that. It was like a very powerful, strong blanket of unconditional love. And it felt like me, you know? They all felt like me. And
The
yeah,
reason why I asked you that is because I had a similar experience. People of color, our ancestry, we tend to come from the dog star,
yeah,
uh, that constellation. So yeah, and it's the zoomorphic animal deities, which it's not. These beings are formless. It just that's just corresponding to our primordial nature, our protective nature. It has a lot to do with how we are as beings. Will show up in the forms that we manifest in. A lot of people of color tend to have canine features. So go figure.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely does make sense, and I get that a lot.
And we snap the fuck out, and we are aggressive and violent, and we will tear shit up. So,
Hmm. Yeah, that's hilarious. Um,
were you did you, because what you're talking about so far, we've gotten more out of you in 5 minutes than we get out of a lot of people during an hour and 15 minutes. So this is awesome, man. You're bringing sure you're bringing the heat.
yeah.
How do you feel about this current shallow outbreak of witch wars in the occult community? What do you
Um,
feel cause, and what's a possible solution? I wanted to ask you this question specifically. I felt like I could get insights.
that's
Uh,
a very good question. Um, I feel like everyone definitely does have a different perspective. There's a lot of clash of tradition. That's what I notice. There is a ton of clash pertaining to tradition, different traditions that are taught from, you know, certain witch, sorcerer, or warlock's ancestry, and they get mad about someone else teaching or speaking on the spirit that they feel, or speaking on the customs that they feel they have the strongest connection to. When in reality, what they're supposed to be doing is learning all of the aspects as a whole of that spirit or of that current. There's too much ego. There's a lot of ego, and the spirits are trying to check people. They're trying to tell people that they're wrong, but you can only tell someone so much that they're wrong before they start to kind of go off of the deep end. And that's exactly what's been going on. So many people throwing curses, throwing hexes, death curses, death threats, doxing. It's a bunch of childish shit. You know, a lot of them are fighting over things that are absolutely ridiculous, over things that, even from both of their perspectives, are factual about the spirits. But they don't realize that just because they're what they're speaking is a fact, that doesn't mean that the other person that's speaking isn't valid as well. They don't understand that there are all sorts of different deific masks and different aspects of spirits. That's what I feel is really going on. That's where I feel the disconnect is coming from. There's not enough actual real teachers teaching people what actually is a, what actually is here, and what they're actually communicating and connecting with. People will argue back and forth about Belial and Beelzebub being the same or not being the same. But what does it matter? They're still Belial and Beelzebub. You're still going to get results working with them either way, right?
yes,
So,
there's the reason why I asked you that question. You gave a lot of clarity. Let me inform people of something. We are led onto the crooked path from agreements that we may have had in past life, and it is part of our dharma and our karma. So if you have the opportunity to teach people, that is releasing you from some of your current debt. So when you give someone else an opportunity to learn and grow, and they actually use some of what you're teaching, uh, you're actually being propelled through that. Don't I would encourage people not to be so selfish and hoard this knowledge, or say, no, you're white so you can't use this, or you're black so you can't use this. It's absolutely ridiculous. Thank you for that answer. Demetrius, what were you going to say? Because I know you have some insight in this as well.
So my insight is like this. So we need to kind of understand that magic is not a fictional construct. Magic is an actual craft. So let me ask you a question. So weapon crafting is in a military is also a craft. It's not a fictional construct. So will United States of America give all of its weapon patents to China? And will China give all of its weapon patents to America? And will Russia give all of its weapon patents to both? Definitely not.
no.
We kind of need to understand it like this. So when people like gatekeep their spiritual traditions, I am actually not angry because I kind of see it from a different perspective. So let's say that America attacks Haiti in the future, or Russia attacks Haiti, and some Bokor from Haiti taught Haitian Voodoo to a Russian person or to American person or to Serbian person, whatever. That person will use the knowledge of the Voodoo against the Bokors when the Bokors come to curse their invaders. So the reason why those people guard the knowledge is because we understand is because those people understand that the knowledge is real and you don't want the knowledge to fall into the hands of your enemies. I think one of the reasons why people in the American, Western European occult community share the knowledge so easily is because they actually don't believe in what they do. So they need a constant social validation for other people to prove to them that they are real and that they are not cosplaying. If
that's
you
actually
ever
facts.
if you ever talk to an Arabic person or to a Haitian person or to traditional Balkan witch, for example, a lot of them will not teach, not because they think nobody else except their nation shouldn't have the knowledge, but because they don't want you to use it against them. Because they know really well that if you use it against them, it will work in the same way that when they use it against you, it works. And the reason why a lot of professional sorcerers in area I am from don't teach anything is because the less of them is, the more money they will make on services. So those are people who are 100% sure that magic exists. And that's the reason why they don't teach, because they don't need to teach for social validation. Uh, per- Personally, when I teach my shit, I teach only shit which I am allowed to teach, and also which I am sure I can defend from. Because a lot of my enemies, people who want to curse me, who want to harm me, they also watch my YouTube channel. And as a public figure, Tom, you also know that a lot of people who watch YouTube channel you create curse you as well. I mean, people
Yep.
watch YouTube channels that just to find a weak spot to curse, which is absurd, but it's actually true.
Yep.
So I would want to ask you a question because you are really a devotee of the King Paimon and you have a strong relationship with the entity. Can you tell us something about your experience with him?
Oh yeah. Um, I've had I've had Pyman help me through a lot of different things. I remember when I was kind of first starting off on my journey with, to becoming like more financially stable. Before any of this stuff, like I really did not have, I really didn't have a lot like going for myself. I wasn't as confident in my abilities. You know, I wasn't making YouTube videos as much as I wanted to. And when I met him, I completely changed my content on my YouTube channel. It stopped being so, love and light language, shit like that. It turned into working with the Goetia, actually understanding how to work with your shadow, changing yourself for the better, setting goals, crushing those goals, you know, passing obstacles, getting past forks in the road, understanding the times that you're going to be upset or depressed, utilizing emotions, pushing emotions to people, using servitors, things of that sort. But a lot of the time when I was learning from Paimon, I was actually working with him in my dreams. He heavily was connecting with me in my dream state. Um, he's the first one that actually had me become more uh, like less sensitive when it came down to seeing blood or bloodshed or gore when it comes to your dreams and you know uh, reality. Honestly, there was one dream that I had with Paimon, and he was saying he was basically testing to see if I was willing to go forward with things that he was asking me. It wasn't anything that was real life, but it was in the dream and it felt very real. So Payman comes up to me and he tells me that he wants me to go after these people who are a part of these specific religions that have been attacking the people that come from his bloodline. And so I was So I was like, what do you,
Fuck
I
yeah.
asked him, I asked him, what do you mean? He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? What I'm asking you to do is,
Predatory motherfucker.
yeah, he's like the angel. He's like, I'm the angel killer. I do not get along with angels. I do not get along with others who will bring slander to the names of the kings and the divinities. These are enemies of ours, and I want you to slaughter them. And I was like, you want me to kill these people? I was fucking shocked. I was like, I
Mm.
mean, I don't know what to say. And so he's like, well, you want to work with me. And he's like, here, you're going to use this. So I went forward and he's like, don't worry, they're constructs. But he's like, if you go after them and you destroy them, you'll prove to me that I can trust you. And so I went and I did what I had to do. And basically after that, I was just this huge bloody mess. I'm standing there and he's like, yes, you'll be fine.
Hell motherfucking
So,
time, huh?
so can I like just interrupt for 20 seconds? I like when I see parallels, you know. Remember what Iblis asked of you and me, and remember Joseph Dougherty, what we investigated as a parallel between Paimon and Iblis. This proves that Paimon and Iblis are indeed two aspects of the same being. What you are saying, because Iblis proposed to me and Joseph Dougherty the same deal. I refused the deal due to my own personal reasons. I paid my debts to Paimon Shaitan another way. But I need to kind of say that there is a danger to this deal because, so I kind of, here is the thing. If you want to make a deal, make a deal. It's your personal spiritual choice. And there are indeed advantages to this deal, which I will not elaborate to you because you are a really knowledgeable person and you know what the advantages are. But
We're
what you
talking
need
about
to under
real shit now. I'm surprised we're not getting interference and shit.
so, so I will
I'm
so I
a
will
motherfucking angel
because
killer.
I am like wanting to just give a short note here because I really enjoy listening to you and I want you to talk as much as possible because you are one of the few genuine motherfuckers who genuinely come to be interviewed and not to be grabbed in by the balls to say something, you know. So when you make such a deal, it's by definition generational. You need to understand that when you make this deal with Paimon Shaitan to be his warrior, your son will inherit the deal. So before you put your blood upon the pact, because you didn't make a pact for that, I think.
I did.
To Oh my fucking god! I need to inform you that it's generational. If you want, there are some things I can say to you privately how to do it better. Uh, I didn't make it into a deal via covenant. I make it into a reciprocity arrangement, which is as much as I do this, I get this, but I am not obligated to do anything.
Hmm.
So I
Because
like turning my.
you're not alone in people that have made that deal, and
Yeah.
the deal is it's not like you're gonna it's not. I think it's what he's going to teach you, the astral assassination, the sicker, the cursing. It's all skills that a lot of spirits won't teach you. But when he said it's a generational deal, um, that depends on the wording of your specific contract.
Yeah.
Demetrius, you don't know if that's in his contract specifically,
He's
but
gonna teach me how to form negotiations with other spirits of the Goetia. That's how I learned to actually talk and commune with them. Um, and essentially, when I made that deal, he gave me full blown details of exactly what it is, what it meant, the words, the ways that he meant everything that he was asking for, the gifts when I was working very heavily with him. Like he broke it down a lot. And for me, that's the reason why I started to at first I started offering that as a service because I felt like I understood it a lot. Like he taught me a lot about negotiating with them and understanding that you don't have to go with everything that they say. They trick people, and that's their nature. But if you stand as a king with them, they'll treat you as a king.
So here is the thing: we need to have three parts of this interview. We
Honestly.
interviewed we interviewed more than 20 people, and you are the only honest guy on this channel from the beginning of content. So ask him anything, Joseph. Really, ask
Yeah,
some questions.
can't say that he's the only honest guest that we've had on. He's the only one that we didn't have to goad into revealing some things about himself. He's giving us the straight up, real deal. This is Hezekiah. No, there's no veils. The veil's off. So we'll segue right into this question. What's the most extreme, off the wall task a deity has ever asked you to do? You don't have to say if you did it or not. Don't incriminate yourself, but just what's the most extreme off the wall thing they have asked you to do? Now, all of us, this question is towards all of us, but Hezekiah, I want you to answer first.
Well, I got to think about that for a second. They've asked me for some really weird shit. Um, well, one thing that Bune had asked me to do when Bune was teaching me, I've said this in the public, so I'm not afraid to say it. When Bune was teaching me about necromancy, and I was working strongly with Bune, and I was taken into like a vision, and Bune wanted me to go forward with connecting with the dead, but it was a different kind of the dead. Like, so when I approached them and I saw who they were, I was kind of in shock because I I sat there for a second and I looked at Bune, and Bune was like, "Well, what's the matter?" And I'm like, "I who they were Nazis." And so when I approached them, Bune was basically telling me about using their death, showing them the death, their eyes, showing them their own death. And when you show them their own death, it puts them into a state of shock. So if they died in a violent way, you can utilize that to insert commands. And so Bune instructed me on what to do. And when I went forward with doing that, it literally took over the general that was right there. And so after I took him over, Bune told me to give him a command, and they'll all listen. So I told him to do something, and when he did, he walks up to them. To he basically tells them to do what I said. They all bow down, and they're just literally kneeling in front of me. And there's rows of them, like literal rows of Nazis, and I'm standing next to Bune, just looking at him like, "What the fuck did you do?"
Yeah, fuck.
General Rommel, number 2, commanding the armies of the Wehrmacht to victory. Yeah.
It was
Um,
crazy.
oh yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, myself, Demetrius, or the guest cannot be held accountable for any misinformation that is misinterpreted. Uh, I'm sorry I didn't add at the beginning, but yeah, wow, man, you just dropped the fucking bomb. You had the commanding Varmont kneeling in front of you. So take that, all you Nazi fucks out
Honestly, yeah. And that's when I learned that there are legions of Nazis that are under Bune. That whoever works with Bune, they are capable of using them. But Bune was mentioning that there is a very strong hatred of people who don't like others because of their skin, because of their ethnic background, because of their race.
there. Right.
And it was interesting. That was something that was very different, and I didn't really know how to react to that.
I would urge you to explore that more. Andros can take you through that as well, just so you can get comfortable with um, delivering commands to these people in flesh and in spirit. I mean, even if you come up, you say you confront some Nazi people that are a bit unruly. You should give them commands, subliminal astral commands, and see how it works out. For sure.
Right.
Attack them while they sleep. Like, look, man, you've already revealed that you are a spiritual warrior. You're a soldier, and yeah, that's people like you are not to be played with. And for anyone out there that has any ideas that you want to get funny or you want to get froggy, you might want to think twice. All right, we'll lighten up a little bit. So, what's the tome or magical text that's had the most influential, profound effect on you?
Most influential magical effect. Obviously, I would definitely have to say the Kabbalion,
Mhm.
the Compendium of Lucifuge, and what was the other one? There was one more that I was really heavily into. Kabbalion, the Compendium of Lucifuge, and then there was the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Okay.
Those were the main three books that had.
Can you talk about the Egyptian Book of the Dead?
Well, with my work with Anubis, he kind of led me to understand more about working with energies that are more psychopomp, communicating with the dead, but also communicating with a lot of extraterrestrial energies. When working with him, you'd literally kind of go through stargates. Um, so with his rights, that because that's how I actually essentially started connecting with him more. Anyway, is when I acquired the Book of the Dead. I didn't necessarily like read it as much. It was more so like a a ritual tool. Does that make sense? It was a very powerful ritual tool to connect with him, like a psychic link. And that's how I was able to connect deeper with him. I'll say, the the third book, I'll change it because I didn't actually really like extensively do any research or reading of the Book of the Dead, to be honest with you. And I'm not gonna lie, I won't lie about any of my experiences. The main book that I would change it to would be the Magdalene manuscript. It would be the Alchemies of Horus. That's a book that you actually utilize to work with your Kundalini energies, and basically you can utilize them to open yourself up more to utilizing the Kundalini energies for sex magic, to use them for manifestation, to use them for cursing, to use them for commanding, sending thought forms to others, to leaving your body, all sorts of different things, even down to cleansings and energetic manipulation of your reality. That's one of the main books, aside from the Compendium of Lucifuge, that had the hugest impact on me. The Kabbalion was a very strong book that gave me the ability to just reading that book from the three initiates. It just does something to you when you read other books. It's like it gives you the ability to decipher words that would be a lot harder to understand, or to decipher sayings or riddles that would be a lot harder to comprehend. And as a result of finishing and reading that book, that's what I got from that. It's like it boosted my psychometry ability, and it gave me the ability for when I touched books, I can understand the scriptures and the text a lot better. Uh, I don't exactly know why, but there's a lot of trigger words and key phrases that are within it that are
Exactly.
extremely beneficial, and that's why it's one of the main books that I recommend.
It's a clavis for sure. It's a key. Like you said, it helps you grasp the terminology. Anybody who's starting out in magic, take it from Hezekiah. Check out that book. I've been informed to let's go back and can you give us one more of the most extreme things the spirits asked you to do, because I got to get Demetrius as well.
One of the most extreme things the spirits have asked me to do.
You already gave a fucking gem. You dropped a
Yeah, that
bomb.
that was pretty fucking crazy. Um, hmm. The other one I can't mention because it's with the Fae, and they're
Faye. Oh
ruthless.
my!
They're
This is.
ruthless.
Are you kidding? Like, are you kidding me, dude? It's like I am working heavily with them right now, so you can mention it. You can mention it. You will have a guy who will understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Demetrius, what's one of the most extreme things the spirits have asked you to do?
So that one of the most extreme things spirits will ask me to do is with the faith, and they asked me to technically summon another spirit, which was actually pretty powerful, and then kill it and dismember it and sacrifice it to them. That's
That
what they
sounds
asked
like
me.
some shit that they would do. Sounds like
Also, one of the fairy elders asked me to perform curse against those who ruin the forest every day.
Fuck.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So for myself, Iblis asked me to get a pig's head, grind it up into powder or dust, go into the masjid, offer the salat, and place the powder, the remnants of the pig's head, somewhere in the masjid. It will curse every devotee that ever goes in that masjid until the powder is discovered. He said the best method for doing this is go into the voodoo room where you offer ablution and just put the powder down the journey, and that powder will stay in the sub sewer system under the masjid for gosh knows how long, and that is an extreme method of cursing Muslims. So that's one of the most extreme things. Iblis, man, he uh he don't play no fucking games. He's right on par with King Paimon, basically asking me. And Belial will do this too. They will come at you with a deal. They'll be like, "Look, I want you to be my hitman," and my hitmen get a lot of fringe benefits. So
no, this is the truth.
it's real. It's
This is
real.
true.
So who's one of your favorite authors and why? Occult authors.
One of my favorite occult authors. That's a very good question. Let's see. Hmm. That's a really good question, honestly. I don't know. I would have to say, um, I would have to say since I have, so far since I've been studying and reading different kinds of books, I haven't really read that many.
It
But
could be it could be a YouTuber, someone
yeah.
that you learned off of.
Oh no,
That
the one that I feel honestly would be my favorite as of current would definitely be EAGM Razarith because he's straight to the point.
right. I was gonna. He's up there for me too as well. We're trying to get him back on here as well, and we wanna get an episode where we want to get maybe a few imperators and the ascended grandmaster on just to glorify the blade, just to talk about who they are. I mean, I don't think. I mean, of course, certain things have to be secret, but these beings, they want to be. I don't want to say used, but they want to be utilized. Their power needs to move. It needs to be utilized. It needs to be. These names need to be uttered by the mouths of worthy adepts. So yeah, Razarif is up there for me too. I would also say Mark Allen Smith, the author of The Primal Craft, not just because of his style of writing. Then I would go with Andrew Chumley. Chumley's another main influence. Or do you write yourself as a kind of like your own
Um,
grimoire?
I did write. For one thing, it was like a little small grimoire.
Mhm.
Um, it was just like a contribution, and it was with a few other authors. But yeah, that's really the only time that I've written. I mean, aside from that, then I'll like write my own spells or rituals that I create, or if I'm channeling things from certain spirits, then yeah, I'll write. But aside from that, I haven't really like actually written anything.
I would urge you to try to do it more, because once you put your living word down, that it becomes it takes on life of its own. And if people actually use your magic from the current that you earthed, that makes you grow in power. So and I could tell just by the way that you speak, you're quite articulate, you're hyper intelligent, that you'd be wasting your talents if you shied away from the. So I would urge you to do some more of that if if you were so inclined to do so.
For sure, yeah.
So what advice do you have for newer practitioners that are fascinated with opening the 11 spheres of the clip off and invoking the ruling archdevils therein? Because I think you said you opened all of them in one night.
No, I did it in. I believe I did. I did it in probably about a week, but that's because my gods told me that I was ready for that and that I would be okay, and I was okay. But there were some of those experiences that I'm still working through because they fucked me up. Um, for beginners, when it comes to the Cliff I would say don't try and do it all in a week. Don't try to do it all in one night. And if you're wanting to connect with them, get used to them individually first. Get to know them first. Get to know Paimon, connect with his energy. Get to know, Beelzebub, connect with his energy. Get to know Nahemoth, connect with Nahemoth. Connect with the energies of Namah, connect with the energies of Lilith. Connect with Asmodeus, study them, get to understand their different energies first and their connections to the elements. You also should get to understand you also should understand what your primary element is, because your primary element is going to point you in the direction of which cliff off it would be best for you to open first. That will correlate to your birth month. It would also correlate to the strongest type of magic that you are connected to. Because quite honestly, when you look at your birth chart and you look at the elements that you're strongest, connected to the strongest, especially if you look at your zodiac sign, you can look directly at the cliff off and tell exactly where you will shine or exactly where you won't have as much trouble. You know? Whereas if you're someone who's a water sign and you're trying to go to more of an earth kind of energy, or a cliffothic spirit that's more earthly, you're going to have a little more of a hard time with that because that's not something that you're too used to. So that's what I would recommend for people. It's not something that you just want to jump into and try and be one and done, because they will fucking kill you. They will kill you. When you do initiate through the Cliff-Oth, you're mocking death. You're having mock deaths. They do kill you. They do take pieces of you, and they give you other pieces of yourself, but they do take pieces of you. They do kill you. You do watch yourself die over and over again with the Cliff-Oth, especially when you get to Doth. Doth is the hardest one. I wouldn't recommend anyone trying Doth at all until you absolutely know that you're ready and that you have some experience, at least with at least a few of the father experience, if not all of them.
Hey,
Yeah.
mute your microphone when you're not talking, because you got a lot of residual background noise. I can't hear Hezekiah.
Oh.
Thanks. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Hezekiah.
Yeah. No, I was just saying they will kill you. They will. You know, if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for the test that they're going to give you, because all of them are going to be testing different things within your life. They're going to be testing different aspects. They're going to be testing your strengths, your mental ability. Like when you go into when you go into the Klipothic sphere that Asmodeus rules over, and you're connecting to those energies of Mars, you're going to be dealing with a lot of energies of fire, anger problems, your insecurities, a lot of things that you don't really address that come from your subconscious mind and your shadow. And that's going to fuck you up. And that's something that, even though my God said I was ready, shit, even though I was ready, it still, it still definitely took a toll on me, you know? It definitely took a toll on me. Even when I initiated through, the Clifothic sphere that Beelzebub rules over, it's still something that is going to take a toll on you. It's still something that's going to it's going to whip you into shape. Honestly, at the end of the day, it will whip you into shape. I only recommend the Cliff for people who are actually serious practitioners that are trying to move forward in their ascent, that are willing to lose pieces of themselves that no longer value them. Because that's exactly what you're doing when you're moving through the Cliff. You're shedding pieces of your life that you know don't serve you. You're shedding pieces of yourself that you know are holding you back. You're shedding the material world. And when you go through the cliff off, you're essentially stating that you are willing to die.
I hope that the audience is listening to this wise gentleman, because there are people out there that believe that they can open a Clipothic sphere and they become a fucking Superman. That every sphere will give them a superpower. What you're doing essentially when you open these spheres is it's real deal theurgy. It's like Hezekiah said, you are these beings are setting up ordeals in your waking life. You are inviting hardships upon yourself to harden you to fuck up. You're saying, look, I'm flawed, I'm soft, life has made me soft, order has made me soft, foundation and security has made me soft. I need to be hardened the fuck up. I need to be devoured. I need you to encase me in the metal of the metal god, so I can be indestructible. I seek apotheosis through death. Is essentially what you're doing. When I opened my first gate on the Clipothic reality map, my psyche was utterly shattered. Depending on what time of day, depending on the ruling exarch of that hour, my personality was of that being. I was talking to myself. I was essentially insane for the better part of a month and a half, and that's just one sphere. These beings will put you through the ringer, but you will, if you do come out on the other side, you will be stronger for it. So this is real deal Clipothic thaumaturgy advice that we're offering you guys. Demetrius, what's some of your experience with the Clipothic?
People, let me tell you something. I think the entire thing is really misunderstood. So technically you have the creator, and creator has creative side and creator has destructive side. Well, the Qliphoth is the manifestation of the destructive side of the creator. And when you jump into those husks, when you jump into those underworld realms, which use the divine light as a nurturing tool, so they eat light away in order to feed themselves. What you are confronting is you are confronting the ancient force of ruin, and it will always, it's like a virus. It goes into the system of your life and attacks the weakest points. So whatever is the weakest, most fragile, corruptible point in your life, it will be destroyed. and it works like a parasite. It comes into your life once and then expands, destroying everything which is unworthy of being existent. So, what I suggest to everyone, because today the adversarial spirituality is marketed as nice guys doing nice stuff for nice people, and I think it is really dangerous marketing. I think anyone who want to work with those entities needs to really consider, do I want to burn my entire life understanding of self and have at least one or two suicide attempts on my spiritual journey, because that's what this will do.
It's- you couldn't have put that any better. Honestly, that's the truth. It's true. It's true.
So
Honestly.
I have a question for you. So you worked with the King Paimon a lot, and you came to the what I will call the Sahir deal, or the deal of the sorcerer, the deal of the black magician. Well, whenever is one approached with that deal, Paimon comes in his more primordial, aggressive form, in which he radiates the black light. So how you prepared aura for that light and that deal, that's really important for the audience to know.
The reason why he's asking you that, Hezekiah, because your aversion to using the god names. Demetrius has a specific method for generating black light and normal astral light. So he's asking you your technique for generating the black light.
Hmm. That's a good question. I've never really actually thought about it. Some of these things I never really put too much thought into. Whenever I connect with him or communicate with him, especially essentially when I was coming to do the deal with him, I've always been someone who was very blasphemous. So when I removed using the names of God, I would use blasphemous acts. So I would either rip the pages out of a Bible, I would bleed onto it, I would either hold the Bible while I'm working with him, spit on it, cuss at it. Like don't I would never I don't use it in the sense to um I don't use the Bible to compel or anything when it comes down to connecting with the energies. When it came down to Paimon, he was very blasphemous. That's what he liked. Very blasphemous, just like Asmodeus. And that's the reason why those were two of the main energies that I felt the strongest pull to when it came to my workings with him. So I would definitely partake in very blasphemous acts. So when it came,
So I
go ahead, sorry.
I have another question for you. So because that's one of the expertises of Paimon, how you developed your astral senses better, because you have them really good. Uh,
How did I develop them better?
yeah, how you did it.
As you know, just like Iblis, he's going to test you. You're going to fight. You're going to be sent constructs. You're going to have things that come to you in the form of a nightmare. You're going to have things that try to attack you. Paimon will be there. He's going to be watching. He will be present. You'll know he's there, but you will have to fight. You will have to stop the intruder or the attacker that comes up to you. So when it came down to it, before I had gotten in any, into any of the working with any infernal energies, I was already honing my abilities. I had been attacked so much because I was leaving my body. I was a really not so smart kid when it came down to using my abilities because I wanted to go to other planes and I was already working with all sorts of different extraterrestrials. One in particular were the mantids, and they taught me some things that I don't think I should have known when I was 16. And I was going to different places and I ended up being attacked. I had a lot of encounters with more shadow people than anything, other extraterrestrials that want to try and extract information, hold me prisoner, things of that sort. But with Paimon, he was very much so someone who would always keep me on my toes. I was always fighting something. I was always getting into some kind of astral combat. But as a result of defeating whatever it is that he sent to me, he would give me a technique to be able to stop them. So when he showed me when he would send them to me, after I would defeat them, he'd give me criticism on what I did wrong, and then he would give me a technique. So that's how
So,
I became more tuned in with my abilities. But like I said, it was very much so heavily within my dream state.
so this is the same thing he taught me how to do and to do exactly. So there were literally what I call the training sessions with the king of the Jinn, or how I like calling him, the Sultan of the Jinn, in which you literally summon him and you request for a sparring match, and then he literally picks a warrior, and that warrior comes at you and you fight, and then when you are overwhelmed, the warrior stops, you get technique explained, and the fight continues. Here is the thing, I never talked with you ever. This is the first time we are ever speaking. And you blew my fucking mind because there is no way you could hear from somebody else that I had the same experience. So,
Yeah.
because, so here is the thing. Regarding Paimon specifically, his agenda is to technically destroy the veil through distribution of knowledge. So you have three members of Shaitanic Triumvirate: Azazil Shaitan, Paimon Shaitan, and Iblis Shaitan. Well, to Iblis, the main tool is Baneful Magic. To Paimon, the main tool is knowledge. And to Azazil, the main tool is alchemy. Well, you noticed one thing. As you do those spells for Paimon, your psychic abilities expand. Now, there is a way of doing the psychic expansion quickly, and this is something I did on a few occasions. And to somebody who is, I will not say brother in Paimon, but we definitely work with the same entity extensively. There is one way of really connecting with him, which is to simply summon him and then do one ritual in his presence. How we usually tend to do it is we do it once and then we leave, we do something else. Because when that expansion comes, we kind of get a little bit overloaded with that genic heat. You know, your body starts burning, nerve system starts defending, and we leave the right. But what should be done at this point in time is you do it in front of him once, over and over again, and then your psychic abilities start expanding, and that creates a permanent trauma on your psyche, but he will arrange it so you survive the trauma. And then due to that overload, because you did it over and over again in a really short amount of time, your senses will become really, really exalted. So there is a one tweak to this, and the tweak is you cannot do this specific form of magic to living creatures over and over because you will destroy everything. Instead, you do it on a whale between the worlds. The whale is such a large construct that you can attack it over and over again and you will still have something to hit, but you will have the same benefits as if you're hitting something else because whale is made of enormous amount of energy. It's technically an infinite source of energy.
That's
So
wicked.
when when you're doing it on a whale over and over again in a really so short period of time, your senses will become exalted, but there is a risk to this. You will become, as Master Razarit said in the interview, a beacon for certain forces to attack. And
Ooh.
as you destroy that veil externally, your internal veil between hidden aspects of the soul and our mundane senses will blur, which will possibly leave you in a state of permanent insanity. So, this is something to consider, but it exists as a method. And as you can see from my example and from your example, because you subconsciously did it or unintentionally did it too, it gives great gifts, but it's also risky. So, what do you think, Joseph, about all of this? Are you there,
Yeah,
Joseph?
muted.
So the same thing happened to me when I started working with Paimon. He first two things happen. You inherit the enemies of the beings that you're working with. and, they, and they set you the fuck up. They set you up for these skirmishes. So I have a specific ritual garb that I wear, and this was about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Paimon said, "Go put on your ritual garb." I said, "All right, what the fuck is about to happen?" But cool, I do as I'm told when I'm under the tutelage of these beings. So I have a authentic ninja uniform, so I'm blacked out. The lights are off in my house, in my temple. So he said, get into a meditative kneeling position. So I do it, and I'm kneeling, and all of a sudden I felt a presence like jump, come in to my temple from the back, and my predatory defensive senses kicked in. I jumped up, and we start circling each other, cursing each other. Like just circling, cursing each other, cursing. And I felt like I was levitating in the air, and all of a sudden you hear bang, bang, bang. Like where these bangs are coming from, I don't know. My wife starts running downstairs. What the fuck's going on? Blah blah blah. I hear Paimon kind of and go off. So these skirmishes, they happen, and these are profound tests that they put us through just to see how you're going to react. My waking consciousness was not at the forefront. Just my complete defensive mechanism, my spiritual senses kicked in, and it was a pretty exhilarating happening. So yeah, I confirm everything that you guys are saying with working with Paimon Shaitan. So man, we've been over an hour, and it feels like we've been talking for 10 minutes. This is one of the best interviews I've had so far, for sure. Thank you again for coming on, Hezekiah. We definitely have to have, because we're a little over an hour now. Will you come back on? Will you come back on for a part 2?
Sure, I'd be up for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So as you know, the attention span of people, well, they're humans, so we have to forgive them. So Hezekiah, please tell the audience how they can get in touch with you, your handle.
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on on YouTube, or you can subscribe to me on YouTube if you'd like. Tomb of the Scarab. Um, Same thing for TikTok, Tomb of the Scarab. I haven't really been as active on my social media like that, but I really am gonna come back. I just have been having some transitions. Like you're working with a lot of infernal energies, and you're working with a lot of demonic energies. You you have a lot of times where you're going through transformation. You have a lot of times where you're shedding different things that you don't need. So as a result of that, with my dedication rights and me really focusing on my rituals, I've been taking a strong hiatus from all of my social media. I'm going here and there. I'm supposed to be finishing the Goetic Whisper series, but I just have been wanting to take a hiatus because of that. So I finished. I'll finish with that, and I'll probably be back active again. But those two are the main ways that you'll be able to get in contact with me. You can even email me at chapman16@gmail.com if you wanted to ask me any questions or you wanted to just get in contact with me. Those are the best ways.
So I have two last questions for you as a guest.
Yeah.
So one question is, can you give simple astral senses development exercise? Because that's a question I get all the time
Simple
from people.
astral senses development exercises. Yeah. One really interesting thing that I got actually from Barbados. Um, and I've tried it myself. It's very interesting. You make you envision yourself with an extra set of ears above your ears. This is for your clairaudience, and you basically just you chant a Z sound, kind of like if you're listening to white noise. Zzz, zzz. The longer you do this, the more you do it, you'll be able to develop your second hearing. your clairaudience, even your telepathic hearing. It gives you the ability to hear spirits better that you're wanting to communicate with. Using this on a daily basis is a really good idea if you're someone who doesn't really feel confident in your clairvoyant abilities. I really like this, and this is a technique that I give to people who are more so beginners because it helps them to build that up. It might be something that starts off as slow, especially if they're not using it as much or they haven't been paying attention to it. But if you're aware of it, you can use it.
So
Demetrius, usually these interviews, we wait a little bit before we put them up, but Demetrius, you got to put this up ASAP. This has been fucking gold. Gold.
yeah, I will put this tomorrow because this is really the best thing we filmed in a long time. If it was ready for upload by tomorrow, I will upload it tomorrow because this is. But I have one last question for you. So technically, if you have to recommend one spirit out of all of the spirits you work with for beginners, who would that be? For somebody who is just starting out.
One spirit out of everyone for beginners, for someone who just started out. Astaroth. Astaroth is very, very patient, very understanding and kind. Even though once you get further into knowing Astaroth, you get to understand the more sinister aspects. But Astaroth is the one that was the most patient. So I
I
would
just
recommend.
started. I just
Okay.
started. That's
So
awesome.
okay, so just one last question after a
Yeah.
question. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
How one can approach Ashtar or start working with her?
How can one approach Astaroth and start working with her? Um, Something that Astaroth taught me that was really interesting is drawing a picture. Not drawing a picture, but you can draw the seal of Astaroth for ladies and men. It doesn't matter. You can take lipstick and just draw the seal of Astaroth on a mirror and start to kind of give yourself love. You can, if you know how to move energy through your body, you don't even have to touch yourself. But if you don't, then you can touch yourself to raise up the energies to connect with Astaroth. That is a really good way for beginners to connect with Astaroth because it'll give them the ability to feel and tap into more of their sensual side, but it'll also be an offering to Astaroth. And it's very much so pleases Astaroth. So if people are serious and they want to connect, they can do it that way, or they can just utilize the seal and draw it on a paper and kind of just envision the seal on fire and call to
Okay.
Astaroth that way.
Okay, so yeah, it adds really long this interview, and people are not so patient these days. So thank you for coming, Hezekiah.
You're welcome.
Uh, I am like asking you. It's like a little bit dumb question, but can we like talk outside of YouTube and outside of interviews? Cause I
Sure.
really like you as a person.
Well, I mean, if you guys
Yeah,
want to, if you guys want to talk after this, we could just end it. I'm not doing anything. We could still continue talking. If you guys have
yeah,
time, I'm fine.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So
So
for our audience, please be patient. I believe that Hezekiah will be back. But you don't get this private shit that we're about to get into. But to our audience, thank you, Hezekiah. Thank you for coming on, and Demetrius, shut it down.
I will shut it down. Wait a second. Uh, let me stop recording.